Hello guys, welcome to the analysis of the RC World M2. I'm very happy that you received the first video very enthusiastically. I'm sure that you learned a lot from that. In this video, we'll again continue with how we are going to attempt an RC. And this is where we begin. The RC, let's do it in the same manner as we did the last time. I would like you to pause the video for a moment and read this RC before we go on. I'm sure you have done that now. We discussed on the RC deep dive methodology or the strategy as to how we should undertake any RC. If you want to go back to that again, go for the analysis of the very first video, which means the RC World M1, and you will get to know what we are talking about. If you are new to this video, then also it's not a problem because the way we will be taking care of this RC will exactly be the same way as we did the first one, and it will include this diagram in terms of understanding. So no worries even if you have missed out on the first RC analysis. So here we go. Let us understand the RC. Again, let me reiterate that doing an RC is not about simply reading the first 4 lines or the last 4 lines or trying to find out what the main idea could be. It is more about quickly reading the RC and understanding it thoroughly so that you do not miss out on any question. So let us read it together. Historians have long recognized the Japanese sword as one of the finest cutting weapons ever created. Okay, but now you see this keyword but, that means something is going to change from this initial sense. In the initial sense, it talks about that historians have long recognized Japanese sword as one of the finest cutting weapons ever created. The moment author puts a but over there, either author is going to challenge that or author is going to add something to it. So author says, but to consider the sword that is synonymous with the samurai as merely a weapon is to ignore what makes it so special. That means, yes, historians have recognized it as one of the finest cutting weapons ever created, but to assume it as just a weapon is actually ignoring it, what makes it so special. Now he will explain why. The Japanese sword has always been considered a splendid weapon and even a spiritual entity. That means it is more than a weapon. The traditional Japanese saying, the sword is the soul of the samurai, not only reflects the sword's importance to its wielder, but also is indicative of the importance of its creator. That means when I talk about a sword, it's not just a weapon. Why it is a spiritual entity? Because it just doesn't reflect the sword's importance to the one who is holding it, but also it is about that person who created it. That person is known as master smith. So master smiths may not have been considered artists in the classical sense, but what does the author say now? That master smiths, they haven't been considered artists as such in a classical sense of artist, but they are actually artists. How? Let's see. So they say that, but every one of them took great care in how he created a sword, and no sword was created in exactly the same way. The forging process of the blade itself took hundreds of hours as 2 types of steel were heated, hammered and folded together many times. This created a blade consisting of thousands of very thin layers that had an extremely sharp and durable cutting edge. At the same time, the blade was flexible and therefore less likely to break. Now they are telling what is the importance of a master smith. The forging process that a master smith undertakes actually creates a sword what it is. And when I talk about a sword, when the author talks about a sword, it talks about the complexity that is involved in that forging process and hence the importance of master smith. It is common, though optional, for a master smith to place a physical signature on a blade. Okay. In addition, every master smith had a structural signature due to his own secret forging process. No. Now what it says, that it was common for a mastersmith to place a physical signature on the blade. It is very common that you can write that who created it. The author says that in addition, every mastersmith had a structural signature also. Now what does this mean? So he says that why does every mastersmith had a structural signature? Due to his own secret forging process. That means the structural signature is attributing to the forging process, and because every sword is unique, it could be attributing to the forging process that a specific structural signature attributes to. So each mastersmith brought a high level of devotion, skill and attention to detail to the sword making process, and the sword itself was a reflection of his personal honor and ability. This effort made each blade as unique as the samurai who wielded it. That means the effort of creating a sword made each blade as unique as the samurai who wielded it. Today, the Japanese sword is recognized as much for its artistic merit as for its historical significance. What was the historical significance? That it is the finest cutting weapons ever created. Today, it is recognized for that as well as for its artistic merit because of the inputs that go in. So, I hope we are clear on the RC. Now, you see, these are the keywords that we have to take care of. And now we go ahead. The main purpose of this passage is to, again, we'll read the options, we'll eliminate the options. Those options that we cannot eliminate, we'll shortlist them, and then we'll weigh these options and quickly mark the answer. The main purpose, that means if I have to put a title to this, or if I have to summarize everything into one thing, if I have to say this thing to somebody and the person will understand that the passage will be talking about this, that is main purpose, isn't it? So let's see. Challenge the observation that the Japanese sword is highly admired by historians. No, he's not challenging that observation. He is rather telling that historians used to believe in something. Now people believe in something else plus what historians believed in. He is not challenging what historians were believing in is false. So Gronk introduced new information about the forging of Japanese swords. No, he is not doing that. Identify the Japanese sword as an ephemeral work of art. No, it's not ephemeral work of art. It's an excellent piece of art. When I talk about ephemeral, means something that is lasting very short time. If you're thinking about something that was there in history and it's still admired and revered, it's not an ephemeral work of art. It is rather something of the likes of the Mona Lisas or the paintings that are created. So this is also gone. Argue that Japanese sword makers were motivated by honor. No, they were not. Explain the value attributed to Japanese sword. Yes, this is what the passage is talking about. Author says that historians believe that it is the finest weapon ever created, but author goes on and tells that it is not just about its weaponry, but it's about its artistic aspect as well. So the answer is fifth. Next, each of the following is mentioned in the passage except. Okay, let us see. Every Japanese sword has a unique structure that can be traced back to a special forging process. Absolutely. The author talks about that there is a unique structure because every sword is unique, and that corresponds to a special forging process because a master smith has a choice to put a structural signature signifying that uniqueness. So this is there in the passage. Master smiths kept their forging methodology secret. Absolutely, given in the passage. The Japanese sword was considered by some to have a spiritual quality. This is also given in the passage. Master smiths are now considered artists by major historians. This is not what is given in the passage. They are saying that the entire Japanese sword is a piece of art and weaponry. The author doesn't say that now master smiths are considered artists by major historians. The Japanese sword is considered both a work of art and a historical artifact. Absolutely correct. So the answer is fourth one. Let's go to the next one. The author is most likely to agree with which of the following observation? When I talk about most likely to agree, that means author has all the reasons to agree with that. Or maybe author has more reasons to agree with one such thing as compared to any other option, right? So let us see. The Japanese sword is the most important handheld weapon in the history. Okay, the author is likely to agree with that. But when I talk about most important, no. Author says that it is one of the most important. See, look at the word, how important it is. If we do not pay attention to that word, we simply will miss out on the tricks that an examiner plays with us. The skill of the samurai is what made the Japanese sword so special. No, it is not talking about the skill of the samurai. It talks about it is the samurai as well as the master smith that makes the Japanese sword so special. If a sword has a physical signature, other swords could be attributed to swords creators. Absolutely. He talks about that, the physical signature attributes to the one who is creating that. And if a lot of swords have a same physical signature, that can be attributed to the sword's creator, the master smith, isn't it? So yes, this is the answer. Master smiths were more concerned about the artistic merit. No, they were not. The Japanese sword has more historical importance than artistic importance. Absolutely not. It's not even mentioning that. Which of the following can be inferred about the term structural signature in the passage? Structural signature. Now, do you remember there were two signatures? One was physical signature and the other was structural signature. Physical signature talked about who created that. Structural signature talked about that unique forging process as it is mentioned in the passage. And when I talk about that, you see that the answer is second. It implies the particular characteristics of a blade created by a smith's unique forging process. Now, sometimes what can happen, we could be confused between one or two options. In this question, especially, some might attribute it to that it suggests that each blade can be traced back to a known master smith. So when I talk about it can be traced to a known master smith, it is about the physical signature, not the structural signature. And the author most likely describes the forging process in order to present an explanation for a change in perception. What perception is talking about? Author is not talking about any change in perception. Author is simply stating that earlier historians maybe used to believe that it is one of the finest weapons, but now we can say that along with this thing, it is one of the finest artistic pieces also. But it is not about changing the perception. It is only about adding an information. Change of perception means that there was a perception earlier, now you refute it and then you bring in a new perception. That is not happening here. Determine the historical significance of Japanese swords. No, that's not even talked about. The author most likely describes the forging process in order to explain why Japanese sword is unique. Absolutely, why each sword is unique. That is why he is talking about that forging process. And in the forging process, author talks about that no two swords are same. Yes, that is the answer. Compare Japanese mastersmith to classical artists. No, they are not talking about that. Review the complete process. They are not reviewing the process. They are simply telling you the process. And this is how, guys, we once again analyzed an RC and completed it. So post your feedback and queries in the comments. And yes, this time ask your friends to join our group. Happy preparations. See you. Bye-bye.